Is Wednesday, November 7th, 2018. The world has changed today, my friends. I am Goes, that is Dan, and the voice you hear in your head, Danny Okers.
Timmy.
What happened?
It was
There's
election
one
day
with a shark
yesterday.
with teeth. Oh, wait.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a day which will live in infamy.
How's everybody?
Pretty good. So is former President Roosevelt. I think that's who that was, right?
I don't think
Was.
he's doing too good right now.
No, he's not.
Is that a wheelchair joke, Danny? It's not very.
No, he's been dead for years, Joe.
That is
Coming up to 30.
that is a fair point.
How do you know, Danny? Did you kill him?
I wasn't born before he died.
Oh.
It
somebody's
was a
already got their
blue-haired
alibi.
gentleman. Well, now is he? Why is he John F. Kennedy now?
Somebody worked on their alibi already.
There was a third shooter on the grassy knoll. He had blue hair.
Oh, yeah. Shit.
It was
Coming up. Stand by.
something popped off for sure.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space,
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
we've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology, MMA Junkie Radio, commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back, he's producing, like he always does, Danny Otto. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Today's kind of sucky, huh?
Oh,
Why?
A lot of bad news in the MMA world.
¿por qué?
Uh-oh. What did I miss? I just saw that Brennan Ward might be off that card. The bare knuckle.
Yeah. Benavidez and
Oh,
Ward.
yeah, I did see that one too. Ray Borg has been pulled. Undisclosed, right? Ward looks to be a contract issue, according to ESPN.com's Brad Okamoto. And the Borg news comes via, I believe, John Morgan. Please tell me that's it. That sucks already, but is that it, or was there more?
No. Well,
Boy, I hope
as
not.
As far as I know.
Yeah, as far as this morning, every MMA seems to have like 3 sections to the day when news tends to break. But yeah, as far as what this morning, so far.
Okay. Well, let's react to that. Let's to start since it's out there.
All right.
Starting with Ward, I think this has to do with what Boss was alluding to. Before he arrived, he said some money was being thrown around, and that was the rumor here in Vegas from people I know. Like astonishing numbers. And Boss didn't get into specifics, but he said some restructuring had to be done. Maybe some of that got lost in communication. The guy showed up to Wyoming.
Think so?
Probably clarified, a few things, and that's what I mean. That's what I gotta believe.
That
He
was
says they're
last week, though, right?
Uh-huh.
That we had Boss on. So they started addressing that then. You would imagine that throughout this process, they would have said, well, what if he just doesn't do it? We got to have a backup. You would have thought that they crossed that bridge, right?
Right, but what I'm thinking is, I don't know. I hate to to think, well, Brandon hopped on the plane, and he thought, I don't know. Like I said, I just heard that some money was being thrown around, some big numbers, and something along the way probably is, well, wait a minute, if I win, do I get this, or miscommunications? Sometimes it can be the fault of the middle guy, the manager, or any former employees with WBK. I don't know. Might be a good idea to reach out to Boss Rudin, see if there's any clarification. Let's see if the fight gets put back together, if it's done. Johnny Hendricks has no opponent that I've heard of. I read these things, and then I get in the car and head this way, and stuff happened within the last hour. Okay. But it's a disappointment because I thought that was a pretty stellar main event for an organization that's just getting going. Like, you really have to think and go, shit, I want to see these guys throw bombs. Like, here's my 29 or whatever they're asking.
They're the big reason you would be ordering that.
Right, and then you got Leben and Baroni. I saw Julian Lane's name there, and I saw Julian Lane at FFC the other day.
You did?
Yeah.
When we went?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I saw him, and for some reason, when I saw his face, I go, that guy's up to something. And I had seen him on that poster when we had Boss on, and I was scrolling up and down to get the info to talk about it. It's this Saturday, by the way. And that was the connection. So today, when I was back in there, looking at Chris Leben, just to make sure I got my WBK. There's actually 3 bare knuckle organizations out there, so you just have to always get your acronyms right. And when I was looking at it, I scrolled enough to see Julian's name. I go, that's right, he's fighting on this card. But anyway, we'll see how that sorts itself out. I would love to see Johnny fight. He put in his camp. What's he going to do? Like, not get paid? I mean, will he get paid something? Will they find someone for him? Who knows? There's supposed to be a press conference starting right now, 11 Mountain Time. They're in Casper, Wyoming. They're 1 hour ahead of us. After that press conference, we're catching up with Chris Leben. That's the plan. We'll see if he maybe has heard of anything. I would hate to take that fight apart just so Johnny has an opponent, but the main event is the main event, and I'm sure they'll do what they can to keep Johnny there, and then the trickle effect goes downward. Don't you think? I don't, unless they elevate those two to main event and say, Johnny, we'll get you on the next one. I don't know.
Triple threat match. How dope would that be? Bare knuckle? 3 guys?
It sounds great, and of course I have to, piss on your Cheerios by going, well, with the commission, I don't know. Yeah, of course it'd be great.
I don't even have a bowl of Cheerios. That was just me being crazy. I was just fooling about.
All right. The next one is Borg.
Feel for the guy. He's had a lot of hardships.
Yeah.
His son has been in Denver, Colorado many times. He's had 4 surgeries, if I'm not mistaken. He's only 6 months old, tops, right? He's had 4
be a little
surgeries.
Bit more now.
Man,
but yeah.
The little man's gone through a lot.
Even on Benavidez' end, this would have been nice to get everything back on track for him, and that just sucks. And it would have been it was a very compelling matchup. It was a lot of fun. When you break it down, it was going to be very, very competitive. And
maybe really, one of the final flyweight fights ever, if the rumors are true.
Maybe, yeah. But I really feel for Ray Borg. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, definitely. I was just researching this fight last night and going through part of my research, not just fights. I'll go through the social media, right, and troll down their Instagram, and man, it was just heartbreaking to see just how many photos of his son and the updates and kind of reliving that timeline. Because you forget, again, the sport's so crazy. Yeah, oh yeah, you remember that, but you don't remember how just how much. I mean, he had the 3 bookings officially with Brandon Moreno, affected, and that was just his professional life. That is, stacks very little to what he must be dealing with personally, right, and how those 2 things affect each other. So it was a crazy flashback, and then hear this morning. Wow, heartbreaking. Hope he's all right, whatever it is.
I agree. In terms of some good news, how about Chad Mendes versus Alex Volkanovski here in Las Vegas at UFC 232? And may I say, 232 is nice.
Yeah,
that's
I like
that
nice
card.
That's gonna be fun. I like Chad Mendes. I think they're. I think the division's way better with a guy like that in the mix again. I think he can get right back up there. So I like that matchup. It's gonna be tough as hell though.
Now this is one where spoiled fans will go thanks, and that's it, right?
Right.
But just take a step back and go, sincerely go, thanks, UFC. You know, retweet those guys or something. I know you might feel like they shit on you from time to time or they just steamroll over media and fans, but it's a fucking cutthroat business. I can't emphasize that enough. And we all go through it. Us three have gone through it in one way or another. All right, we show up, we try and be as happy as we can, but sometimes we're having our bad day. It really is a cutthroat business for the fighters, for the promotion, all of combat sports. But really, this card didn't need that. Like, I mean, it's kind of, you know, the tickets go on sale. I think $12.50. Get some blood splattered on you. You're like cage side, and then it'll go up, you know, to about 100. I think in the T-Mobile's what they start at. We're Vegas, so you're not going to get 25, 50, maybe. I don't know. I maybe misspeaking here.
But location has a lot to do with your expectations as well. If
Vegas,
it's a Vegas
New
card,
York,
it's got to come.
LA, those are just expensive markets. That's why I always said take advantage of when they had big Fox cards. There's only one left, and then they'll become, I guess, big ESPN cards. Who knows?
Right.
There's going to be one in Milwaukee. Dude, for $200 you can sit cage side, and the UFC usually makes a really good effort to stack those cards too. But when it's a pay-per-view, it's just a whole other animal. Vegas on New Year's Eve weekend, shit. I mean, just you break out the plastic at that point. But look at this card: John Jones versus Alex Gustafsson, and I think by now we know it's for the light heavyweight title. DC will have to relinquish. There's no more holding on to it.
You got my money already, by the way.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Cyborg versus Nunez. Can't argue with that, right, guys? That might be the fight that determines who's the greatest female fighter of all time up until now. Because Amanda's racking up some names, man. And now that would be 2 titles for her.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then Chiesa Condit. Hey,
Fun.
This guy's trying out a new weight class. The other guy's not done, and he's giving us memories forever. Probably a future Hall of Famer for the UFC, Carlos Condit. Latifi and Anderson. Little insurance for the other one.
Part of the storyline, right?
Right. Arlovsky and Wall Harris. Young guy versus older guy. Megan Anderson versus Kat Zingano. Insurance for the co-main event. Fun. Zingano's got something with Nunez there. She beat her. Megan, you know, was reasonably tough in her last fight, but you know, she could maybe just. It's insurance, man. There you go. It's just a car. It's a fight. I'm not gonna make a bigger deal out of it than it is. Penn versus Ryan Hall. Legend versus young guy. They're gonna grapple. Let's see what it's like. And then, you know, you got Peter Yan versus Douglas Silva de Andrade, Tom Duquesnoy versus Nathaniel Wood, Uriah Hall versus Bevon Lewis. I know if I just say Bevon Lewis, people will go, who? But check him out on Contenders.
Yep.
This one could be a real firecracker right here. And then Ciar Barraduzada versus Curtis Milner, same thing.
That's a good
C.
fight.
Hall versus Lewis. See George's comments from 10 seconds ago. So, really, I'm standing in line. Come on, man. When does it open, you know? I'm getting ready to purchase my tickets, and then someone just taps me on the shoulder and goes, do you know they added Mendez versus Volkanovski? Most UFC fans will just go, oh, thanks, great. But seriously, that's they didn't need to do that. They could have already started filling up January and threw that in there. That is a nice stacked card to end the year. So maybe I'm going overboard here, but I really feel that way.
That's good news.
Sometimes
I like
you get
that.
swept under, and you know, they'll just sit there and be like, you know, we're trying to toss you a bone here, Vegas.
Yeah.
I think another good thing that we heard this morning as well, you know, if you're lactose intolerant and you know you're going to have milk, it means you're going to get diarrhea, right?
It is.
I'm going to say something right now that will save us from diarrhea of the Dan later. One
Of the
championship.
Dan?
Yeah, one championship.
Dan Tong?
No, not that Dan.
What
Dan
Dan?
from Oregon.
He just said one championship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eddie Alvarez is going to be in. They're going to have a Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
And Demetrius Johnson, he's going to have a Grand Prix too. Now, here's the thing. Maybe you can drum up enough guys for Demetrius, but doesn't that even kind of make you think that division's going to go away even more?
Which one? UFC flyweight?
Yeah. And there may be some available people for that Grand Prix.
Oh.
I
suppose that's a thought.
I like that tinfoil hat.
Who's
I mean,
the guy
granted,
that's
it's one, and they have bodies. They
Sage
can do
Northcutt's
it.
on a plane going that way. If he's a free agent. Yeah, free and
First
clear.
class too. You see that?
He I guess he could be part of that 55. Or he's not done with 55 yet, right? Or is he up to 70?
I think I think his days are done there. Yeah, I think he's just 0-70er now.
Speaking of which, and then flyweight, because that keeps coming up in our discussions here as our recaps and unfolding of news and such. You know, the game I like to play, because we have to play it so often, is which fight is going to get bumped to the main card, and we get to play that game again. So if you guys want to,
for the Denver card.
Yeah, for the Denver card. Now, kind of jumping ahead of the queue, you guys can have different takes and whatnot. I tend to say, okay, we'll fight past prelims, right? That way they don't have to upset whatever's on FS1, even though, let's be honest, this is a complete FS1 card. So either way, I would say still Fight Pass, and Fight Pass has one of the few remaining flyweight cards. We just mentioned, obviously, Benavidez Borg got bumped from this card, but Joseph Morales versus Eric Shelton. And what's interesting about that one is right next to it is Mark De La Rosa we had on the show, and I kind of regret not asking him this because De La Rosa's competed at flyweight in and out of the UFC, and granted, this fight was booked at 135, so it's not a shocker that Joby Sanchez, who fights at flyweight as well, is meeting him at 135. Even if it was a flyweight fight, maybe it would be bumped to bantamweight anyways, right? A lot of times we see that in the short notice fight to meet the other guy halfway.
And I'm sorry, did I miss it? What is Morales and Shelton booked at?
It's booked at 125.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is I'm interested to see which between those two matches get booked if we want to further look at what the UFC, how much the UFC is really looking to put and invest in that division. Because if you look at it, all rights, even looking at the FS1, Shelton, being on the Ultimate Fighter has Fox Sports ties. We always talk about that. They always try to get those guys on the Fox Sports slots, whether it be on prelims or just the main card itself.
Gunther was on a recent tough too. Yeah, but Gunther was just not one of the better fighters in that pool of that division.
In fact, he didn't
really have
a good performance at all.
Right, and if you notice, though, as far as the Fight Pass ones, the one that is secure is that headlining Fight Pass spot. Even though they don't put it as much as the Eric Winter days into that, making it the Fight Pass headliner, they still stick to not really moving that Fight Pass headliner for the most part.
But guys, do they have to do it? Because isn't this one of those cards where they have 6 fights on the main card? Can't they just go with 5? Like
I think
they're structured.
Yeah.
So and I see them probably. You're right.
But they're gonna make us pick again.
Fight Pass.
Yeah,
yeah. Poor Matt's on vacation. He's still running that shit.
I know.
Who's lagging? Rocco and Morgan. If you guys are listening, Erickson's looking for you. But yeah, I think we all should start thinking about what that might be. Could they just go for some? Well, no, because if they move someone from prelims, then they still got to move someone up from Fight Pass. I get what Dan's saying. Okay. So, yeah, I guess what they'll probably want is an exciting fight. Who's the most exciting fighters, both of them, from that group? Morales and Shelton or De La Rosa and Sanchez?
I mean, De La Rosa hasn't had much chance to prove it. Sanchez is winning his way back. He started off with like 2 or 3 losses, so it's kind of tough. He was more on the receiving end. But I say Morales and Shelton, just ceiling-wise. And nothing against Sanchez. Seems like a really nice guy, and De La Rosa as well. I think they both have ceilings. I'm not discounting them at all. But if I had to split hairs here, I say Morales and Shelton. And I think it's going to be they're both going to be action fights, but that'll definitely deliver. There's going to be a lot of scrambles, a lot of typical things that make a flyweight fight fun, but that's the problem, isn't it? Is it's maybe some people aren't thinking that they're that fun. So we'll see what they get done with here.
Now, I know I say often, hey, politics, religion, let's try and really not bring that up too much because
right.
I can only imagine what the chat would be like if we just spent too much time on it. So we'll say stuff like vote, or congrats to the new president or whatever. But I think this is worthy of mentioning. Sharice Davids was elected to Congress. She defeated Republican incumbent Kevin Yoder to capture the Kansas 3rd Congressional District. The first time a Democrat has won the suburban Kansas City seat in a decade. So an MMA fighter. I think that's our second MMA fighter that is now involved in politics and at a high level. So she's a member of Congress.
It's very first one, New Mexico or Utah or something like that. I want to say
it's that he's I think a governor of Kansas.
Wait, didn't we have him on the show once?
Oh,
Oklahoma.
I thought there was a female.
It'll be it's a dude. It'll be here in this story, but I've seen it before because he's campaigned a little bit on behalf of the Muhammad Ali Act.
Okay.
Hold on, the name just escapes me.
What happened with Lytle? Didn't Lytle want to run for office at one point?
He did, but he didn't win. But I know this article will reference it. Yeah, it didn't. Okay.
Imagine Lytle just laughing at a press conference. That's a great question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure other articles will reference it, but
it's funny.
I know it's the dude that's campaigned. Go ahead.
I'm just picturing playing a game right now. I actually have an easier time picturing any fighter pretty much as a politician in a realistic political scenario than I do a promoter. Like I see Dana White like getting too upset, if he's like in some type of like acting unpolitician like, it's what makes him so so endearing and unique as a promoter, sure, but I don't know how well that would play in politics, I guess is what I'm saying, I love Scott Coker.
They could have a filter.
I love Scott Coker, but could you imagine him under a deposition? Coker be just sweating all over the place, right? I mean, but
sweating all over.
I know. I always gotta associate that with like Coker or George. Poor guys. They always get that descriptor attached to them.
I'm still trying to find that name. But not because now it's bugging me. I'll probably find it during the break.
I mean, maybe not like Mike Perry, but I mean, like you just pull up any fighter
Mike
here.
Perry
like,
to run for office?
Like even like Joseph Benavidez, even as eccentric as he can be sometimes. You put him in a suit, he looks good in a suit. You throw him there in front of a bunch of cameras and stuff. Like I would trust him, if I was like trying to have him lobby for my cause, and not that they'd lobby, but you know what I mean.
Well, looking behind the curtain a little bit, we actually talked about this on Daily Debate. I'll just bring it out. When I was thinking about it. Because Bryan Stan is what everyone will say.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Slam dunk,
of course,
right?
yeah.
This guy,
Son and his running mate.
People said he could run for president. But what I was thinking was if we wanted to stick to someone like what Lytle did, like you run within your state, mayor, congressman, whatever, who's somebody that's attached to a city? It's got to be a major city. Like you can't say like Baker, California. I'm looking for like a major city that everybody recognizes. And the two I came up with was Stipe and Cleveland. He's got some pop there. Faber and Sacramento. Can you guys think of another one? Think of cities like
I would say
Albuquerque. Think of cities like or even Las Vegas, or just someone like, oh man, you automatically jump towards that name.
DJ in Seattle?
Penn for governor. That was a shirt.
There's one right there. Penn in Hawaii. So he's more of a Hawaii guy because I know that the city of Hilo. Well, is Hilo considered big damn? Is that like 50,000?
Well, I mean, it's the big. It exists on the Big Island for what that's worth. But the capital is Honolulu, Hawaii. But Penn kind of got that Weidman thing in New York, where these guys have actually lobbied and like got involved in the politics. Regarding the sport or otherwise for Penn. Penn's actually got involved in politics for the actual
Hawaii
sovereign
entity.
But
doing that, right? Doing that type of a job. Look at the Sanchez brothers.
Yeah.
The other guys, I think, like he's a civic worker in Stipe.
Right.
And Uriah he identifies himself so much with that city, and this guy's like written books. He's a business owner. Former fighter, former world champ. It just seems like he does it. BJ just looks like the type of guy like he'd own a gym, which he does, and that's it. I don't see him running for politics.
Tyron Ferguson
in the city of Ferguson.
Actually, Tyron's a guy maybe I could see.
He's more governor. I'm thinking like Missouri.
He's a guy though. You think about it. I know he's moving toward this Hollywood thing, and he's really investing in it. From doing acting classes to rapping, and everything in between. That really, planting his seeds in that side of it. But I could see Woodley because he's not too flashy about it, but he does a lot of work for his community, and one of my more favorite aspects of the man. And I could totally see him. Maybe when he gets older and trying to put himself in a position to do something about it.
I would have said Chael in the state of Oregon, but I think he already
he kind of ruined that.
Tried that, and he's got a lot. Those skeletons. Yeah. Tyron is, it jumped out at me as like,
Tyron's a
but
good
I think
one.
He's starting to go towards the entertainment side. Although that's what Schwarzenegger did.
Oh,
He was
I thought
entertainment
we were
first,
just
and then
attaching
went to politics.
someone. Like we're being serious,
right? But
Tyron's a good one then.
Tyron, yeah, but I would say St. Louis because is Ferguson like a major city?
Well, yeah, all right.
You see what I'm saying? Like I was thinking like Sacramento, Cleveland. So
I saw his time to that, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe there's some other ones out there that we need to think about. Anyway, all right. Where are we on the break scale? Yeah, a little bit more news. I like to break around 25, but now we got this 7-minute break, 6-minute break now. So I
we're not short of it, right?
We got another.
Happy birthday!
We got another.
It's birthday today.
Is it?
Yeah.
Happy birthday! Cage Fury Fighting Championships inks deal with the UFC Fight Pass. Now these guys have been around for a while. They've paid their dues. A lot of fighters have come through their organization. So congrats to them. The Fight Pass is not going to go away, folks. Remember, the Fight Pass ESPN Plus is only in North America. I want to say Canada and the U.S., but that's why Europeans and oceanic people, or Africans, South Americans, have to still stick with the Fight Pass. So I mentioned this because the UFC Fight Pass continues to stack the deck, and if you get Fight Pass and you're committed to it, just pay for the whole year. If you pay for the whole year, I think it goes from like $9.99, so we'll call it 10, to like $7.99. We'll call it 8. So you save a couple bucks. 2 times 24. Sorry, times 12 is 24. So just buy it for the year. If you're gonna get ESPN Plus, don't worry about, oh man, ESPN got me for 5, and now the UFC's getting me for 10 or 8, like I said. I believe the UFC Fight Pass will cut themselves to 5 if you can identify that you have ESPN Plus. So you're still back to your original 10. But kudos to Cage Fury Fighting. I've followed them for a long time, and that's great for them. For those that haven't heard, we'll say this on the way out. Brendan Ward has pulled out of his bare knuckle fight versus Johnny Hendricks after a contract dispute. And also Ray Borg will not be fighting at UFC Fight Night 139 versus Joseph Benavidez due to injury. Tickets go on sale for UFC 232 today. $1,255 gets you cage side.
Jeez.
Yeah, and let me see here if this article tells me
what
the
the
rest of the
TV
tickets
for
are.
that one.
The rest of the tickets are outlined as
The following?
I have to say the following because I thought they would have it, and they did not. Oh, wait, here it is. No, it isn't. Nosebleeds, $140.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can go through access.com to get those. So, folks, our guest today will be Chris Leben, and Bryan Caraway will actually visit the studio in the second hour. So stay close. We're going to take our first break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93.
King Kong has a lot of shit on them. Like a lot, especially Goes. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Get the radio channel numbers and a link to listen to your favorite NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, or NHL team sent right to your smart device. Just go to SiriusXM.com/sports today and click Add to My Calendar. All right, our next guest, you know him, of course, through MMA. We're an MMA show, but hey, the world is expanding, man. Combat sports is blowing up, and bare knuckle is all the rage. Chris Leben from the UFC, longtime veteran of the UFC, he's going to be back in action. He'll be fighting Phil Baroni, another fighter who we remember through the UFC. They're in the co-main event of WBK FF. That goes down on Saturday. It is a pay-per-view. Check it out. Joining us now on the hotline is Chris Leben. What's up, Chris? How you doing?
What's up, man?
Welcome,
doing good.
Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George, Goes, and Dan. And man, it made me happy to see your name pop up. I thought you had, separated yourself for a decent amount of time, where if you were healthy and you were ready to go and you got lured back into combat sports, it would be fun to cover you. You know what I mean? So happy to see you.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a little bit, and I'm excited. I got the hype is back. I'm super motivated. Trained really freaking hard for this, so it's exciting to have this opportunity, especially having been there and done it for so long. It's a different journey now. It's like I'm really trying to take everything in and really appreciate where I'm at.
Yeah, we're almost 5 years removed from your last MMA fight. In those 5 years, I'm sure your body was able to repair itself, recover, clear your head, relax. You know what I mean? How was it like when you did get back into a full? I mean, I'm sure you train. I know you do, and I know you teach. But what was it like to get back into a camp, and how were those first few days shaking off the rust?
Well, I work full time in a gym. I coach guys. I train every day. Anyways, it's just my life. It's what I do. But yeah, you're right. Training camp itself is something different. The diet, the morning sprints in the morning, conditioning, putting all that together. Honestly, it was kind of like the first. I wouldn't even say few days. I would say 2 weeks. I was like, oh man, what did I get myself into? Definitely was feeling those last couple of years. But ultimately, you're 100% right. My body has healed a ton. I feel more clear-headed. I feel sharper, crisper than I ever have. And so, it's exciting at this point in my life to be able to get back in there and, put on a show.
We know in MMA you have to sharpen a lot of tools, but for bare-knuckle boxing, I'm sure you can eliminate wrestling and jiu-jitsu and a few other things. So primarily, what did you work on? Was it just strength and conditioning, nutrition, and boxing, or were there other things you still incorporated from your MMA years of experience?
Well, the nice thing is, we have a really great boxing program at my gym, the arena, and so when you're training boxing, just for boxing, you have to train 100% boxing. I mean, MMA, there's some things you can get away with because guys got to train the ground, they got to train the Muay Thai, they got to train wrestling. There's all this other stuff, so you can get away with a lot more. But when you're focusing on just the hands, it really does take it up another level, and that was exciting for me because I haven't really done that, trained just hands for 3 months straight, and I can't wait to show what I've been working on.
Chris Leben's our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be fighting Phil Baroni at WBK FF. That's World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation, and that event takes place on Saturday, and it is available on pay-per-view. All right, Goes, what do you have for Chris Leben? Friday, excuse me.
Friday.
Yes, November 9th, Friday. I apologize.
Chris, in regards to your training partners for this, do they have to be in the same mindset as you? In other words, if you're training with guys who are maybe preparing for a mixed martial arts fight or a kickboxing fight, does that kind of throw rhythm off a little bit?
Well, what I did, is we've got a pro boxer at my gym named CC, really good boxer. I worked a lot of sparring with him. And then also, I'm sure you remember Sokaju.
Yeah.
Sokaju was coming down and sparring hard with me as well. So I got the mix between the MMA style and the clean boxing style, because really bare knuckle, I mean, this will be my first one, but it appears from what I've seen to be more like a street fight than a boxing match, because the dirty boxing is allowed. You can hold an hand, you can spinning back fist, so for the boxers, that was outside of the box. They usually when you tie up in boxing, they separate relatively immediately. So it was good to work the hands on the outside with the boxers, use my MMA guys to work, striking into the clinch, breaking out of the clinch, and fighting on the ropes, all that stuff.
This thing that happened here with the main event, can it have any type of trickle effect on you guys? Have you heard anything as far as you guys being elevated to the main event, or your fight being split up to give someone else an opponent? Have they talked to you at all about any of that type of stuff?
No, I know that my fight is on. My opponent's here. I talked to I talked to Boss Rutan, he's the president. I talked to him today, and everything is a go. The main event, it's an unfortunate deal, but I mean, personally, between us and everybody that's listening to your radio station, I mean, I would think that people that are into martial arts and that are into combat sports they're gonna recognize names like me and Phil Baroni. That I'm not a football fan, so in San Diego, where Sean Merriman played from, he was people knew him, people on the street knew him, and I get that your average person knows him, but hey, this is a fight. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure the people that are interested probably want to see fighters fighting. I don't know.
All right, Chris Leben, our guest here. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm actually excited for the card. We've got Johnny Hendricks fighting. He's fighting the Grenade, the Irish Grenade, and then we've got Christina Marks, who I've trained with a ton, and for her just to throw hands, I think that's gonna be a good fight to watch.
Hey, Chris, let me interject here for just a second. What Goes asked you about was, I don't know if you've heard, but Brennan Ward apparently was off the card. That's why we were asking if you or Phil might be asked to fill in. But now you're telling us, John.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about Sean Merriman.
No, yeah, we were talking about Johnny.
Is Sean off the card, or is his opponent off, or?
I think so. I think something happened there. Yeah,
Oof.
That's what I thought you were. That's what I assumed you were talking about was the football player. I hadn't heard anything about Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah, it's Brennan Ward, the one that may have been. I think he's off the card. That's what we read on our website, MMA Junkie, this morning. But we'll have to dig into that a little bit more. You're telling us your fight with Brony's a go, so let's continue with that. Let me turn it over to our fight analyst, Dan Tom. Dan, what do you have for the Crippler?
Hey, Chris. I'm just going through your Instagram here, man, and it's just so awesome to see all the different things you got going on. But one thing in particular, kind of outside of fighting but still connected, I've seen you doing some officiating and really, putting the work in there. Can you tell us what's going on with that? Is that something you're going to keep doing down the road? Is it on hold for right now with the bare knuckle boxing match coming up, or what's going on with that?
Absolutely. The last show I officiated was maybe 3 weeks ago. I took the last month off. It was 29 Palms. We did a show for the Marines up there. And it's great. I love officiating. Right now I work for CAMO, which is the California Amateur Martial Arts Organization, and then eventually, my plan is to, obviously to get in with CSAC and become a pro referee in California, and then, in all the other states across the country. For me, I feel like reffing is such an important job. Obviously, as a fighter and a coach, I've definitely put some refs on blast that probably wasn't fair. Because now that I do it, I realize just how difficult of a job it is. And that being said, I don't think that just anybody should be a ref. I think you should have a background in the sport. I think you should have competed, and for me to be able to have the best seat in the house, to be able to put everything I know to help make the fight fair, make sure the fighters are safe, you know, and stay involved. Reffing is something that I can do indefinitely at this point, you know. So I'm absolutely going to continue that as a career. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, like I was saying earlier, you know, martial arts is my life. You know, if I'm not training or coaching, you know, I'm with my family, and refereeing is just another aspect of that.
Well, that's awesome to hear. You know, I love seeing it personally. You know, guys like yourself. Obviously, Frank Trigg is another former fighter who's kind of foyed into that. And just from my even just very limited experiences as a competitor and as a cornerman, it's really relieving when you have that pre-fight ref meeting and you got a ref that's on point. You don't have to worry about safety being an issue. We often talk about we need fighters as judges, and that's a whole nother argument. But to what you're speaking to, the safety that is paramount. So bravo to you for that, Chris. One last thing from me.
Well, thank you.
Oh, no problem. And one last thing from me. I feel like I could ask you so many things from fighting, especially from when I kind of entered into the sport. You know, through kind of that tough one you were a part of and so forth. There so many things I could ask you, but my last question for you, Chris, actually is non-fight related. I'm on your Instagram here, and I see skateboarding as a part of the bio, and I did not know about that about Chris Leben. So let me pass on a question to you, Chris, that I actually asked my followers yesterday. I was a 90s skate fan myself, and I asked my followers, what's your favorite 90s skate video? It's unfair because there's so many good ones to choose from. I'm a personal fan of Dae Wong Song versus Rodney Mullen round 2, but shoot it at me, Chris. What's some of your favorite skaters or skate video if you have one from the 90s?
It would have to be Welcome to Hell.
Oh,
video.
Yes.
Jamie Thomas's section in that was just
great.
I mean, that blew my mind. Yeah. So I mean, that's probably my favorite. Obviously, Dae Won Song, Rodney Mullen, two guys that what they do nobody else can do. You know, totally different styles. But
right.
They're in there as far as their own styles go. They're at the top, the pinnacle. But yeah, man, skateboard. I've done it my whole life. You know, I really when I was growing up, I thought I was going to be a pro skateboarder. Obviously, fighting that didn't work out, and you know, here I am fighting. You know, but I still skateboard all the time. Actually, just had a company, Dickhead Skateboards. Just made me my own custom deck. It's pretty cool. You probably see that on my Instagram.
Yeah,
too.
I'm looking at that.
So, you know, I'm really stoked on that, and I'm actually excited to, you know, get this fight out of the way because that's one thing I'll be able to get back to. You know, right now, obviously, skateboarding's on hold. You know, and jiu-jitsu's on hold. You know, I've really been working hard on my jiu-jitsu. Recently got my brown belt. You know, and I'm looking forward to competing in the gi this year too in that. So, you know, right now the focus has been hands for, like I said, the last 3 months. So it'll be exciting to get back to some of those hobbies after this after Friday night.
Chris, I want to thank you for being on the show. We really enjoyed catching up with you, man. It'll be great to see you compete again on Friday. Yes, folks, Friday, November 9th, WBKFF. You'll see Chris Leben fight Phil Baroni in bare knuckle fighting. So again, we appreciate the time that you give us here on Fight Week.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, take care, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right,
bye. That is Chris Leben, folks. Give him a follow on Twitter. It's pretty easy. Chris Leben, MMA. That's his Twitter handle. What's wrong, Giz?
I'm disappointed.
In?
You had a skateboarding company this whole time? You never mentioned it?
I walked into that one.
Nice.
All right, so let's take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM's Fight Nation Channel 93. We'll be right back.
Tell your boss to reschedule that meeting. Call your wife and tell her lunch is off. It's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes.
Have you ever seen those videos of the Jackson 5? They always start the same with this song. They'll stand there and I think it's Marlon and Michael do that move I was doing where they take a step forward and do this, step forward and do that, then they retreat, and then Michael Jackson goes to the front, grabs the mic, spins, and then starts singing.
Yeah, that was all the dad.
Yeah, the dad, and then the guitarist, I think that was Jackie and Tito or something like that. They do the same step, all choreographed. At the time, it was like, oh shit, oh he didn't, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now you would look and compare that to all the stuff that the backup dancers can do.
New Edition had a
ridiculous.
good little run with that type of
Did
stuff
they?
too. Yeah.
Yeah, but this one was one of those ones where you'd come back, you'd go back to school and say, "Did you see that shit?" You know, like it was nutty. All right, what do I got to do here? Read. Let's talk about the road to the Final Four. It starts this week. Aha, I was corrected. And the biggest games are on SiriusXM. Visit SiriusXM.com/college basketball schedule all season long for game times and channel listings. Big shout out to the Sanchez bros chilling here in the studio. We got AKA in the house. And what's the other one say? Oh, Hollister. Okay, yeah, they're from Hollister. Mm-hmm. What brings you guys to town? Somebody's birthday, 30th birthday, right? All right. All right, Michael Sanchez celebrating his 30th. And Mike's not going to like this, but I thought James was younger.
Oh.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Huh? That's it, actually, yeah.
James
is 31.
Doesn't James look like a pro wrestler that came from like Bulgaria?
A little bit.
He's making his debut in the like if he started doing this.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
You have a pro wrestling look.
Hey, do you want to hear something? Our friends at Busted Open did a top 10 list of the greatest wrestlers ever. I was listening to it on the way in.
How deep?
It could go from the first wrestling match ever.
Oh, they didn't do like 25 or something. They just kept going?
No, first 10, top 10.
Oh, top 10?
Yeah.
I would love to listen to that.
Okay. Well, it's on today's show. And me and Mark Henry agreed on 8. And I couldn't believe it because I have limited pro wrestling knowledge. But, of course, I've heard whatever has spilled over in the mainstream or in the times that I did become a fan. I watched WrestleMania 1.
Make my list right now.
I remember the 90s and all that shit. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you listen to Mark Henry, he had some points where you're like, oh, shit, these guys went real deep on their homework. I just went off who won titles, who was just the main eventer, who had classic lines, who had
they encompass all
pop, who had like a following, signs, an actual token slogans, you know, things like that. That's what I was going off mine.
Okay.
So you want me to share it?
Can I ask a question, though?
Or you guys want to do a top 10 yourselves? And then
I want to do one, too. But
are you into the pro wrestling, Dan? Could you come up with 10? Or are you
top 10 for what?
Pro wrestlers.
Pro wrestlers? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can do that.
Then Dave LaGreca, good friend of the show, he did his, and I was like, he only had like 4 that I had.
Okay.
I think, this is constructive, Dave. I think Dave overthought it on his list. All right, and the reason I know this is because he was prefacing it by saying, I know the nation, because they have their nation as well, the Busted Open Nation. I know the nation's not going to like me. And when he was saying that, I knew that he was uncomfortable, perhaps with a couple of his, so he has to go over the top to, like, this is what it is. You know, this is the name or whatever. I think Mark's is more for the palette of guys like ourselves or maybe even hardcore fans that, like, a Meltzer would be hype or would be fist bumping. Mm-hmm. Dave LaGreca. But anyone else that's lower than that, I think, was more along what Mark Henry was saying. I was just happy that 2 of mine were with Mark's. And the 2 that I had, I still kind of stand by, but I understood what he was saying. And in fact, I'm shameful of one of the ones he included that I didn't. But he went a little old school on me.
I feel like top 10 is like one for a real hardcores. You know, you really get to have like a top 10. Because I feel like when I start getting from 5 to 10, like I'm the type of fan where I give a crap what order they're in, you know? Although I will say, like...
Yeah, the order wasn't as important. I just was happy that my 10 were there.
Or like if we did a top 5, like I just know who's my number 1. You know, kind of a thing. Oh, yeah.
Who's your number 1?
Hey, yo.
Razor Ramon?
Sylvester Stallone. I'm just kidding. Yeah, yes.
Oh.
Razor Ramon. Hey, yo, Big Kev.
Here's my question.
Okay.
Like, Hulk Hogan was a terrible wrestler. But
right.
he accomplished a lot.
An icon.
So does he fit on that list?
Yeah,
or
he does.
Okay, so we're doing the whole
that list.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
more of like the what would we call it, like pop music list.
Oh, shout out
top 25.
Shout out to Don Piccolo in the YouTube chat, who now enters every day going, "Hey yo,
Don Cho?
Don Cho.
Yeah, I like
Hey
that
yo,
guy,
Don
man.
Cho.
That dude is cool.
Okay.
Although
Don Cho.
one time I think he had a little bit of a rough time with some alcoholic drinks.
Oh yeah. He
Yeah.
fell in slow motion. I've never
He
seen
was-
that happen
He was
before.
bathtub Don Cho one night.
Do you remember the first time when Danny, like the first week that he did our show, and he thought his name was Don Chow, and he put Don Chow in
That
the
was
thing?
funny, yeah. Speaking
That's what
of
I
the chat,
say when he goes in the chat room every day. I call him Don Chow, and that's what Don says when he calls. He goes, "Oh, it's Don Chow."
Nice.
speaking of the chat, shout out to Knuckle Up 101. And guys, I'm gonna butcher this the same way I butcher Rich Chew and Rich Chow. I think it's Rich Chow. Is it Buco rules or Bucho rules?
Bucho, I think.
All right, Dan, you know what is it?
Bucho.
Bucho, all right.
His name?
Bucho rules,
He's
which
Bucho.
I do know is Ben from New Zealand.
Just
so
think of
he's in
Desperado.
there. The Human Moron makes an
Yes.
appearance. Does anybody know who the Human Moron is or no?
No, I even made him a T-shirt one time.
Really? Do you
Yeah.
know, Dan?
No,
Danny Oakhurst, do you
I
know?
prefer not to.
I don't want to ruin the mystery. I don't know
Oh,
who he
you
is,
do?
but
Oh.
no, I don't.
Okay. T is in there as well. Kate, the lovely Kate, is in there. Danny Oakers, of course, that's Danny Otto, same guy. DJ Quest 562, Don Piccolo, Ryan Gerard, always hanging out in the chat. We'll shout out some more names later on. Marco from Waco's on the hotline. Let's get to him. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
From Waco, you got me thinking about the 10 best wrestlers on my list now. I'll give it to you just because.
Well,
Start with Andre the Giant.
You want to give it right now, or do you want to study it? Because I'm looking at tomorrow's show. Tomorrow's show we have Phil Davis, and I think we were scheduled to have Brendan Ward, and I'm not sure we'll have him, but maybe we will. Who knows? Maybe he'll want to give his side of what happened. But I think tomorrow we can set 30 minutes aside if you guys want to do a top 10 wrestling list.
Is there anyone that we can get in here that would, obviously if King Mo still lived out here, who do we have as
who's
wrestling
hardcore
talent?
wrestling? Carla Duran.
No
Carla?
chance.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Are you talking about fighters?
Yeah, you guys want to do a draft?
Well, I want to do the top 10, and then you can get creative like next week or something. A draft? No, I mean, so 30 wrestlers, and who wound up with the best 10? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It'll be hard because when you listen, I want to follow what they did.
Okay.
Just say who you had, and then if I can get Danny to find out if he can get a copy of Mark's list and Dave's, they were real good in explaining why they had it there. And, dude, Mark's was awesome, goes. Dan, how much do you follow pro wrestling? Have you had any stints of months or years?
Yeah, like the Golden Era. Like
Then you
I did like the from
might capture a
WCW
couple
to the
of
Rock
those.
DX. Like I was all for that. The crashing the set, Eric Bischoff, NWO,
And you know
Bash
who
of the
Mark Henry
Beach.
is, right? The world's
Sexual
dominant.
chocolate. Yeah, baby.
So when he said some of his with the explanations that he gave, it was like, all right, that was some great radio. They built it up from last week.
I could dig
so
that.
that's why I'm thinking if you guys
dig that.
would rather do the homework
Yeah.
and come up with your list rather than just come up with a list off the top 10. Mine, I want to be honest, mine was just top 10 as I was driving yesterday.
I gotcha.
I got to a red light. Sorry. I shouldn't be doing that. But then today I happened to be listening to it, and I was like, oh, cool. And it matched up a little
Well,
bit.
you don't got to ask twice for your boy to get down on the list. I'm the list
List
master.
guy. All right. We're at the top of the break. Sorry, Marco. Hang with us, Marco. We'll come right back with you. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93.
Viva Las Vegas.
guys each a guess as to who sings this.
It's a trick question because there's two that are.
I didn't intend it as a trick question.
The Emotions.
Huh?
The Emotions.
The Emotions?
Yeah.
God damn, you know this?
Well, I was the one that pitched it.
Oh,
I'll even tell you. I'll even tell you what it should be invoking visually for you. What movie scene it's attached to.
This is Carlito's Way.
No.
I will say it supersedes it, even though
there's also Bad
Carlito's
News
Way came
Bears.
first.
Bad News
Bad
Bears
News
does it.
Bears has this?
Yeah, and then there's another one because that's what I remembered it from this morning. Fuck.
You got the best of my love is on Bad News Bears?
Boogie Nights, baby, another B.
Oh, Boogie
Nights.
Great
That's
movie.
another one.
Yeah,
Hey,
the epic one shot. The epic one shot.
Nice. The Human Moron. Let me see the moron again.
Just a guy with his like face palming.
Okay.
Although
Hold on a second. You guys are
Boogie Nights.
Who was your guess for this? I'm just talking about the lead singer.
Oh, I didn't have it. I was drawing blank.
take a
Ghost
guess.
bailed me out. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
I would have said Diana Ross.
Yeah, that's what I would have said too.
No. There's another one. It's I think Rejoice. Is what their name. They originally did it, I think, and then.
Danny, do you know who sings this? The actual singer's name?
I do not.
Okay. And I'm still in shock that this is on the Bad News Bears.
Isn't it?
I've seen this movie plenty of times, but I guess I don't always watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a minute.
What the fuck is it on? You guys are
Oh
bullshit.
no! Wait, that might be the fountain. Okay, there's another one.
Okay.
Am I confusing them? Fuck.
I have a hard time seeing Walter
I think
Matthau
it
crack
is.
one open to this song.
You realize
know?
I have to watch the whole movie to see if you're right.
Me
or
too
wrong.
now, as I haven't seen it in a minute.
If I do
give
and it's
up.
not on there, you owe me a Chipotle.
I give up.
Unless
They
you
have.
renounce
I love the
that
song
claim.
they use in the second movie. Is really good.
The second Bad News Bears?
Yeah.
I don't think I watched it.
You didn't?
No.
Let Them Play. You don't remember that?
Oh, yeah, but not like the first one.
One of the best
Did they win?
Street Fighters of
No,
all
don't
time.
tell me. Maybe I'll see it one day.
Is in that movie. In both of them.
Yeah.
All three of them actually. Tanner Boyle.
Okay. All right. Marco, we're going to bring him back in because I guess we ran off on a tangent. Marco, what I was getting at is I'd rather you do your homework and then give us the list tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll separate half hour so that anyone that wants to call in can give their 10 and then we can give our 10. Cool?
10's
No
gonna be a
problem,
lot.
cool, man.
All right. What's on your mind, brother?
Real quick shout out to Brendan Shaw, Five and the Kid. Because I guess according to him, he reached out to Ray Borg and he donated some of the proceeds for his comedy show to help Ray Borg with his kids' surgery and stuff. So
Yeah.
big shout out to him.
Further to that, I think he said, I will pay for all of your kids' expenses. And that was a few months ago. So if he did this even recently, wow, what a connection. And let me tell you something. Brendan actually revealed on his podcast recently that his kid was also, his kid was diagnosed with, I think, a form of epilepsy. But they've gotten a hold of it. But he actually broke down while trying to explain the frustrations and the sadness of trying to diagnose what it was, because it's a little, it's a little boy that he's talking about. And then, it takes a lot of courage to do that. And sometimes you try and hold back and sometimes it just comes out. But I also wrote to him and said, hey, man, stay strong. It sounds like they're on the road to fixing, what, and this won't be anything that's long term, but still he must have gone through a lot. So, yeah, I'm with you, Marco, on Brendan's job. He takes a lot of heat, man, but that's a real kind of
that was
generous
awesome.
act towards Ray and his family.
Real quick on the fights this weekend, man. Of course, I'm looking forward for Perry and Cowboy, but when I talk about the main event, I want to talk about El Pantera. We haven't seen since he got his ass kicked by Frankie Edgar, and then Korean Zombie that we haven't seen since March of last year.
Can you believe
and
it?
Before that, since 2013,
Yeah.
because the Korean then army had to make him do mandatory service and shit, and then he gets injured. So it's a weird main event. I feel right there with the Korean Zombie because that dude never disappoints because, Korean Zombie. But what is your opinion on this fight? Because it's weird as hell. I mean, I was looking for the Frankie Edgar Zombie fight, but we got this one. We got what we got. And, tell me what you feel about it, man. Peace out.
Okay. Well, we gave a breakdown. We did our breakdown already. I just don't know if it's been published.
It's
been
okay.
published.
So we talked about it. But Dan, do you want to go a little further on Yair and Korean Zombie? I mean, you do watch a lot of tape on all these fighters.
Well, I was going to kind of pawn it off to the breakdown article like you were. By the way, the video and article that I wrote that George is referring to is up now at MMAjunkie.com. You can always find the main events dropping on Tuesday. for fight nights or any fight card. But yeah, so if you want to go in depth, that's there. But I will say this, guys. Frankie Edgar was supposed to be on it. It's crazy intangibles. Yes, it's a dangerous fight for both and an important fight for both guys. Yes. But I would argue that Yair Rodriguez versus Korean Zombie, more exciting matchup than Frankie Edgar versus Korean Zombie. I feel like Frankie Edgar would have probably done the smarter thing, and he's one of the guys that can actually control really high level jiu-jitsu guys or even scrambly guys. So I think it would have been one of more of a route like that. So whereas this, whether you're a Zombie fan or a Rodriguez fan, I think everybody to quote Chad Dundas, every guy gets to do their stuff. So all the fans get to be happy no matter what the result of this one's going to be. If that makes sense, I think we're going to get a better fight.
I think I remember who you picked, but how do you see it going? Like 5 rounds?
No. 5 rounds. We're at elevation. Zombie's been training for it. Rodriguez has proven that he can go. Zombie's went deep into fights too. Lest we forget, Dustin Poirier is one of the original scheduled to go 5 rounds, although that one only saw 4. Rodriguez went 5 at elevation, although not as much of elevation in Utah when he fought Caceres. Did well, almost showed no signs of slowing, even though he kind of tires and will throw up at the end of a match per se, like the Charles Rosa fight, another elevation fight in Mexico. So he's shown that he could push through, but it's short notice, and I think he's training at sea level. Yair Rodriguez, he's laid low since this camp change up, man. I mean, I was trying to find what camp he's even training at, and there's only like 1 gym post in the last 6 months. I know he's fiddling around out here a bit. He was at Team Alpha Male for a minute, but like we were talking with Darren Elkins yesterday, it hasn't sounded like he's revisited there in quite some time. So that kind of worries me. Whereas a Zombie, even though he's been off, he's been doing his thing, and his thing shows to work for him, even when he's coming from time off. So I did pick Zombie, George, and I think I said it by the second round. I don't see this thing going back to the second. Either Zombie's going to get caught chasing and run into a head kick and get knocked out, or I think he's going to be able to sting, put enough pressure to force some, not panic, but forced reactions out of Yair that's going to lead to Zombie being able to snatch up a submission. So I got Zombie by sub, but he could get knocked out here for sure.
Let me ask you a question that I would ask any analyst.
Okay.
Would you rather pick a fight almost to the T? I mean, you can't say, like, at 38 seconds, watch for a low kick. You can never do all that. But as long as you lay out their game plans and you get it right, but you get the result wrong, or would you rather put out a game plan, the fight goes nothing like it, but you got the fight right? Which one would you rather have as an analyst of the two?
I would say, and it should be the answer, that the analysis should be right. I mean, to put any type of value on something like fight picks, one of the most volatile things, is insane. That being said, now that my fight picks have really suffered, not just recently in the standings, I mean, before, even when I'm not talking about the Junkie standings, even when I was number 1 for the majority of this year, I was still saying the same thing in my defense, right here on this show and my podcast, which is my fight picks have gone down. Now, I think that has to do with, interviewing fighters, having to deal with these biases, something that you guys, have talked about as well in the show and whatnot. So, part of me goes, man, I really wish having that higher pick percentage than what I've been dealing with. But at the end of the day, you know what, George? Gun to the head, I will say that the first answer. My friend Jordan Killian were on the podcast and was saying, he's like, you got this pick wrong, but you showed your work right. If this was a math problem, you showed how you got there.
So that's the one you'd prefer?
Yeah. Whereas a lot of people, they're holding up their tickets or they're holding up their right picks, but
because the percentages will catch up that you get them both, the prediction and the analysis, right?
Right.
So I would also go with that one.
And I always point to the Stipe versus Alistair fight. I picked Alistair because I was like, well, just at the end of the day, he has more ways to win, which sounds like a cop-out, but those ways to win were I see the body kick being there, I see his countercross being there, and I see a guillotine being there. And what happened? Stipe got hit with the body kick that hurt him first. That got him to rush in, hit with the countercross, and when he was trying to get up, he almost got caught with the guillotine. Now, the pick was wrong. Stipe won. But that was one of the. Did I feel bad about getting the picker? I'm like, no. At least that I'm like, wow. At least I didn't look crazy. It was one of those ones. So.
How about you?
I'd rather get it wrong,
but get your kind of analysis right.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah,
because I think in the long run, you'll feel better about your work and you'll have more confidence. Let's face it, we're not fantasy fighters anymore. I'd love to revisit it, by the way, but right now we're talking our parlays and shit, and then coming in here and taking our medicine or thumping our chest. But Bryan Caraway. But Yeah, for the immediate reaction, yeah, your buddies. Like, I have my buddies that'll go, thanks a lot, you know, if I toss something their way.
Oh,
and
they're
I'm
the
wrong.
worst, dude.
And, you know, so they get in my head, and I'm like, well, look, man, I can give you this minus 900 fighter, but do you really want to put 900 to win 100? 90 to win 10 doesn't nothing. What's that going to do? Yay, let's go get Chipotle. But we had to risk $90. That's why I tend to look at dogs, and that's why I don't play as much, and that's why I tend to parlay, so I don't get hurt as much, and I don't hurt them as much. All right, that was a great call from Marco, and we'll take Showtime in just a second, but I want to welcome to the show UFC bantamweight Bryan Caraway.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
What's up, Bryan? How you doing?
Good, good. Just finished an awesome training session.
That's two.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice. Perfect. I could tell.
What'd you do?
I did some conditioning, like fight stimulation stuff, like running, sprinting, punching, ground and pound. You know, basically.
You pushing sleds?
I didn't push sleds today, no.
Flip tires?
No.
Did you wear an oxygen mask?
I didn't.
Oh, that's all old school, huh?
Yeah, I didn't.
Did you ever do any of that shit?
I did a lot of that stuff, actually.
How do you believe in that at that moment, and then months or years later, when someone's introducing something to you, like I see Michael Chandler like he'll be standing inverted and doing these push-ups while holding a medicine ball between his legs. You know,
and then he gets right back up to the top, right?
Right, and so I'll look at that and go, is that just for Instagram? Like, are you the reverse of an Instagram model where you're just like, hey, look at me, I'm a Greek god, and I can do these great things. If that's it, great. But if it's something for camp, how do you know that your strength and conditioning guy isn't just making you do something that years from now we'll look on, like the chopping wood, flipping tires, wearing the mask, you know what I mean? So how do you do that with your new strength and conditioning guys? Do you ever raise an eyebrow and go, you want me to do what?
Sometimes. For me, I'm pretty fortunate. I was able to go to school for exercise physiology and kinesiology, so I had a pretty strong background.
So you know when someone's bullshit.
And a bunch of stuff like that. And but the most important, not the most important thing, but a huge thing is if it freaking makes you tired, you know what I mean? If it makes all those tire flipping stuff, as long as you had proper posture and, you know, you had proper back and neck and body alignment, anything that's hard and physically pushing you is making you stronger. You know what I mean? So
okay, that's a good way of looking at it.
It's not hurting. So if I do something and it's hard as hell, then I know my body's, you know, I probably need that. But the thing where people get into is they start, you know, sacrificing form, you know, bad posture, things like that, and that's when you can get hurt doing something, you know, that's over your weight, you know, heavier than what you can properly lift with proper form.
So get this. I was pushing a sled once. You remember Ulysses Gomez, UFC fighter?
Of course, yeah.
He was doing some training. By the way, shout out to Ulysses Gomez. He's now part of Las Vegas Metro. He's a police officer now.
What?
Yeah.
He just got he just finished I was going to say training camp, but he just finished
Police Academy?
The academy, and they went through the ceremony, and I think he's officially on the streets.
That's
so
awesome.
Shout out to Ulysses. But he also had a stint as a trainer, personal trainer. So we were going in there and doing work. But one time he did have me push a sled, and I guess maybe my fault for A, being in the shape of round, B, probably not stretching. But as I'm pushing the sled, my calf popped, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I pulled a muscle, I think. And I was thinking, why the fuck am I pushing a sled? I don't have a fight coming up. I already have a girlfriend. Like, who am I trying to – like, I feel like you need to do exercises that benefit you. So I should just basically hop on a treadmill, you know? But I wasn't mad at Ulysses because that was one of 100 that he taught me, and many also benefited me, and I learned. You know what I mean? That one again probably could have been dehydration, could have been lack of stretching, or maybe I didn't everything we were doing. Goes is 10 years younger than me. You know we're brothers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
9 years. Goes is 9 years younger than me, so part of it's ego thinking, well, he can do it, I can do it, you know. But I probably should have been going, I'll sit this one out.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
He made me pay, though, because when I had to do it, there was a girl on the sled that I had to push. So not only did I have to do it with more weight, but I had to have a girl look at me and go, you can't push this shit any faster?
Yeah, so I just don't know when you guys push back on your strength and conditioning and go, hey, I don't agree with this.
Yeah, you know, it's just it's a huge balance, and a lot of fighters make that mistake because they have too much pride to say no, that they don't want to do something. And what happens is, for a lot of strength and conditioning coaches, their workout and their camp becomes more about strength conditioning than learning how to perform, you know, the 100% in the octagon and preparing properly for their actual fight. You got to remember that. To me, I think sport-specific exercising is ultimately the best, but it is also really good to add in some supplementation to other strength conditioning. But that needs to be like cayenne pepper to your workouts. You know what I mean? Like your main ingredient's not cayenne pepper. That's you just put a little sprinkle of that on here and there. And that's how I like to believe in things. Strength conditioning is a huge portion of that, but first and foremost, I think everything else should come, almost first. I mean, obviously you got to be in shape, but you can get in shape by shadow boxing and doing fight specific stuff.
I like what you said about the alignment. If your body's aligned, then that's a start.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely. In school, when we were going over teaching different people, we would do assessments. We learned how to exercise or work out kids that are adolescents to old people to even old nursing homes, just people with injuries, just different modalities for different people, and and then also doing like a basic fitness test. You take somebody and say, hey, where's simple test, basic fitness level, basic fitness test, basic stretch, see how limber they are, ask about, health and their old related injuries, all kinds of things. And then you take that and you base that on, for me, depending on, I would look at somebody and say, okay, you're not going to benefit from pushing a sled. The risk for injury is going to be a lot higher for you because maybe you're not an athlete, you're not maybe necessarily in the best shape or, the best shape to hold the proper posture for pushing that sled, when there could be so many more beneficial workouts for you to maybe slim down or less explosiveness or maybe less range of motion if you have a hurt shoulder, whatever it is. Everything needs to be tailor-made to exactly to every person that you're talking about based on age, everything.
Man, I love hearing that stuff.
So, like, the videos that he's talking about on Instagram, say Michael Chandler, that was a good example. Do you ever look at your opponents and just kind of see what they're up to?
I always just not only am I a fighter, but I'm a coach. I coach a lot of fighters, and I help with diet, nutrition plans, and I help set up some strength conditioning stuff for other athletes. So, and then just being an athlete myself as well. It's always awesome to kind of see what's out there, what's going on, research it back, see what people are doing, and give it a try. The sport's always ever evolving. Everything's evolving. So science, nutrition. So yeah, you got to keep up with it if you want to stay a top athlete.
Sometimes fighters will come in here and they'll say they'll talk about getting old overnight. I know you haven't hit that yet, but have you ever hit any facet of it, like something that used to take you a little less, all of a sudden, from one fight to the next, now it takes you a little bit more?
Huge. The biggest thing is weight loss for me. Noticing, like, from when I hit to probably 30, maybe 31, I noticed, like, it seemed like my metabolism, it's a lot harder to lose, like, stomach fat, compared to what it used to be. I have to be a lot, I was pretty strict before once I went 35, but I have to even be more strict now. I have to both ways, as in not eating too much and also not eating too little. Everything's more finite with keeping my calories in the proper range, my macronutrients, all that stuff. It's very, very finicky. And I definitely noticed that. It's been harder to lose fat, lose weight, and maintain the muscle mass.
For some reason, dude, I tuned out for just a second. You know why? This guy needs to get into TV or the movies. Doesn't he look like he could be a bad guy, like on an FX show?
Bad guy?
Like a bad cop.
You
got the beard. Like got a couple battle scars from fighting. You know what I mean? So they wouldn't even have to do makeup, like put a scar on him or nothing like that. Just be like, roll him out there.
Thanks. So he's saying in a nice way, I'm ugly.
No, I didn't
you don't
say
have to
that.
give him a scar. He's already messed up.
Well,
I got a poked eye right now. I got a cut over my eye. Like I'm all beat up. Just
no,
from
but just to be in TV
and
or the movies, you have to be a good-looking dude. So there's the compliment in considering
I
you
could
for
say
that.
like
but
part
you have
of the Shield.
I mean, if I would have said like, did you want to be in a boy band? No, right? Because you have a tough exterior.
Yeah.
So I for some reason, I think he could be a bad cop. Because he's got the gravelly voice a little bit, and again, he's just got the right scars, man, the fight scars.
You're not going to call him a bank robber like you did Benoit because he's wearing all black again, are you?
Yeah.
No.
Look like one.
Here's a way to kind of pitch this game or to make this a easier perspective. Here, if I were to have to force Bryan Caraway, not in a role, but here I'd say this: what's that actor's name? I used to say Mike Powell could be a stunt dummy, but I could see you taking all his roles. He's the guy he had the lame Archer role in the Avengers movie. He was in the town. He was he's a good actor.
Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner, that's it. Yeah.
I actually got to meet him, and he actually was a fan of mine. It was the craziest story. I met him actually after.
Where'd you meet him?
When Misha fought in the Madison Square Garden. We were out after our after party, and Harold. He's another. He's like a black comedian. I think he played on Scrubs. He played on a bunch of movies. Harold something.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about too. I don't know his name. I know the face though. Yeah.
Maybe he's got. I'm not sure.
That's Donald.
He's got kind of like a fro a little bit. And, comedian, funny guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, he just came up to me and was like, "Hey, are you this and this and that?" And I'm like, "Oh, awesome." And he was just chatting like, "Yeah, we're a huge, UFC fan, and we recognized you, whatever." And he's like, "Hey, you have to meet my buddy. He's a big UFC fan." I had no clue. And then he came over and it was Jeremy Renner, and I turned around and I was like, "Oh, hey, man." I was like, "It's freaking Hawkeye."
That's the name. I kept thinking Deadeye, Deadshot. Hawkeye. Okay, I know.
But anyway, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, he could do that. He could be Hawkeye.
He's not a very big guy either. I'm bigger than he is. It's crazy how they do that in TV.
I don't know about acting chops, but if I was a casting director, I'd be like, hey, this guy moves better, looks better. Let's get Caraway in there. Let's get Caraway a shot.
I was gonna say like an NYPD blue detective, but I didn't want you to go. Oh, you comparing me to Ricky Schroeder? That's why I went the route of bad guy. You know what I mean? Because you can also have an Eastern European look to you too. So you could be a guy that doesn't have many lines, but you're like a hitman, a bodyguard.
Well, I just did my 23andMe, and I'm 49% Irish English and 22% German French, and then I have 8 or 9% Scandinavian.
Yeah, I could see him doing that.
And then 1% West African.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
Okay. Making our way in the globe there. Nice, nice.
Do you wanna try something? Can you just hold this in your hand and say, "This coffee's bullshit"?
I don't think
No?
I don't know. Maybe. This coffee's bullshit.
Yeah,
a little bit, right? Yeah. All right.
I think that was Russian. I don't know.
I think so too.
Close enough. All right. So you have Pedro Munoz coming up.
Yeah.
November 30th, the tough finale. This fight starts standing, but I want to see it hit the ground.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting fight, man. I have a lot of respect for Pedro Munoz, not only inside the cage but outside the cage as well. He's an upstanding guy, upstanding human being. We fought on a couple cards together, and he's always just been super solid. And he's actually, a guy I think that's underrated. You know what I mean? He's only got 3 losses, and they're to, Jim Rivera, top 3, top 4 ranked guy consistently. Rafael Santal, top 2, top 3 ranked guy consistently for forever. That guy's beat everybody. He's got to win over Dillashaw.
I think that was short notice too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then he lost to Dodson. But Dodson's a guy who I feel like can beat anybody at any time because he doesn't really fight anybody. It's like, if we play a game of tag and, he's fast, he's probably going to beat a lot of people and play the game of tag. So, he can beat anybody. But, so I have a lot of respect for him. He's legit. He's one of the few guys that I think can give me, a handful on the ground. I think I've out-grapple and out-wrestle, anybody in our division.
Is that what you want? You want the fight to hit the ground? Like as an ego thing, catch wrestler versus Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, or are you beyond that?
Yeah, I don't even think about that really. I just think about winning.
Okay.
Think about just putting it on him, putting pressure and making it a really exciting fight. And, just took some things from my last fight. I felt really flat and just didn't execute a lot of stuff. And I think because of that, it gave me a lot of fire for this fight. I think this is a lot higher level fight, even though I lost split decision that I felt I won in my last one. It's going to be an exciting fight. Pedro's got, great kickboxing, striking, real traditional. He's solid. He's got awesome, low calf kicks. He's catching a lot of people, those guys. And he's a legit black belt. A lot of people these days are getting their black belts out of cardboard boxes, and they're terrible. They'll come to the gym, and I could probably put my arm inside my pants and submit half these guys. And that's not even bragging. That's just how bad it's gotten. But he's a legit black belt. He can scramble well. He's got good at, BJJ for MMA. He doesn't like to stay on bottom. He doesn't stay there and play that guard game. He's very scrambly. For a guy who didn't really wrestle, traditionally growing up, he can wrestle pretty well. So I'd say he's probably one of the most well-rounded guys, in the game. But I think I'm just I think there's areas that I'm definitely better. You know, I grew up wrestling my whole life, and like I said, I believe that my grappling and wrestling combo mixed together is, you know, one of the top in the entire world. And I think my striking's very underrated and just very unorthodox. You know what I mean? I just gotta believe in it more. I've never been knocked out in 45 fights, and I need to start, you know, owning that more. And just, I don't mind getting hit.
You shut me up one time with Eddie Wineland. I've always liked his boxing, his footwork, his movement, and you outstruck him.
Yeah,
you know, and so you're right. I think you just have to believe in it more. I didn't know that stat, but something tells me you've shared it before. I just may have just spaced out. 45 fights, you said, without being knocked out.
Yeah,
or knocked out.
Yeah,
probably.
knocked out. I've got I haven't even been knocked all the way down. I've got Mizugaki wilded me a little bit, and yeah, I've never even been dropped. You know.
And for people who want to go on the Sherdog record and say the one quote-unquote KO loss, that's a TKO by cut. That was in his very, very first fight, and that comes against Ian Loveland, and that was only, a cut. I'm sure you can provide more context on that. But
yeah, we were just thrown. Got huge, split my head open, wasn't knocked out, wasn't even TKO'd. Like, the fight was still going. We were scrambling. I actually had him like a heel hook, like got in a scramble. I had him a deep heel hook. And then, like, right when he pulled it, like, I thought I was going to finish it. The dude's tough. He's one of the toughest guys I've ever fought or trained with. And right when we ended up scrambling through the break, the ref stopped it, and I was completely conscious. It didn't wobble me, rock me, anything. It just split my eyebrow open. You know, you can't have all these handsome, sharp features and not get cut. So, you know, yeah, just referee stoppage just sucked, you know. I had a huge, like, looked like somebody hit me in the head with a hatchet. It was bad.
Jeez. Was that one of those fights that was like in the rain and?
This one was actually inside sport fight. It was one of the nicer ones.
Okay.
One of the nice ones was what
He's not kidding either, folks.
Yeah.
Brian shared a story once. He fought in the rain. I think this was behind a bar in Washington, right? The state of Washington?
El Patio Mexican restaurant for one of Dennis Hallman's shows. And, yeah, I was outside.
And the rain didn't stop you guys.
In the rain. I was wearing, I borrowed Dennis Hallman's wrestling shoes. He wears like the size 12. I wear a size 9 wrestling shoe. I had shaggy hair at that time. It was all in my eyes.
Why didn't you bring your own shoes?
I didn't even know where the fight was going to be. I didn't know it was going to be indoor, outdoor. There was no notice.
But you roll barefoot everywhere you go?
Yeah.
He wasn't expecting the rain for the fight.
I didn't bring wrestling shoes, and I'm not going to wear, you know, running shoes. You know what I mean? So
I just thought you guys would go barefoot, both guys.
Yeah, well, I was going to go. We could have went barefoot, but it was so slippery because it wasn't a canvas. You know, it was vinyl. So when you have a vinyl, have you ever seen vinyl get wet?
Yeah.
That shit's slippery. Like, imagine
it still happens to this day in MMA. They just don't.
Yeah,
they don't think about the condensation.
Canvas. It was ridiculous, and it started raining outside, and they had those clamp lights from Home Depot that clamp on top of the cage. And this was a homemade cage, so it wasn't like this nice rubberized cage material. It was like shitty metal material that would like gouge you. Like, you'd leave with more battle wounds from the cage than you would from the fight, and. The generator ended up breaking that was running the lights, so they had all the cars come around. I'm not even joking, I swear. I pull around and turn on all their car headlights.
Lionheart style.
For our lights to fight. It was ridiculous. It was Team Washington.
Like the Outsiders or something.
Yeah, it was Team Washington versus the Army Combatives in Washington State. And I fought like a lieutenant colonel, and he was their head instructor in the Army of the combat team. So, surprisingly, the whole Army team won except for I was the only guy that won the fight. Like, all these other MMA fighters got beat up by all these Army guys. Like, oh man, this is embarrassing.
You fought what? Lieutenant what?
His name's Lieutenant. It was I think he was Lieutenant Colonel at the time. His name was Pete Iverson. I still remember because he gave me He gave me 8 stitches above my left eye.
So these dudes could fight too.
Yeah, man. That
would it have been a major upset if the Lieutenant Colonel beat you?
Well, I mean, there was really no rankings or anything back then. You just showed up and you fight. You know, I didn't even know I was fighting. You show up and they say, how much do you weigh? We get on a scale, and then he just like, you know, what's your background scale? Like, he's 20 pounds bigger but never wrestled. You know, he's 10 pounds bigger but he wrestled. They kind of just like, you wouldn't know who you're fighting. They just kind of see who showed up and then ask anybody else want to fight, come forward. And then they just have everybody weigh in, kind of fill out a thing saying what your martial arts background was, mostly if it was wrestling or jiu-jitsu. Nobody really had much jiu-jitsu. And they would just match you up, and you'd be fighting like an hour or two later.
Yeah. Do you think the Lieutenant Colonel that night was like, do as I say, not as I do, and you boys did. Yeah. I'm proud of you. Do you think he tried to spin it like it's like? I think that was a saving grace that the rest of his guys won, right?
Maybe he was the captain of the team, and I was the only guy to beat him. But he didn't give up, man. Like, it was actually his cornerman threw in the towel, and he was super mad. in between the round 2 and 3. He cut my eye open, but I broke his nose, I broke his orbital.
Whoa.
He had two huge black eyes, cuts over both of his eyes. That guy was so tough. I had him in the deepest triangle forever, man, and I paid the price for that one. I had him in a triangle, and I was trying to choke him so hard, but I couldn't get it. It was slippery everywhere, and man, he was just hammer fisting the crap out of me. I had to just after not choking him for probably a minute straight in a deep triangle, I had to let go because I was getting punched and had to come up and start wrestling. But he was a really tough guy, man. That was a crazy fight. I wish I got to find the footage somewhere. It's on an old VHS tape somewhere.
Oh, you have it?
Somewhere.
That'd be awesome.
It would be.
With the
I'd
headlights
love
and
to
all
see
that?
that. How could you get that? Where would you call Hallman first? Where do you start with that?
No, actually, that's a good idea. I had it in my own personal. My buddy recorded it.
But nobody's got a VHS nowadays.
But yeah, I gave it to my brother.
Yeah, I think we have one.
My brother lost a bunch of my footage because he's like, hey, can you send me a bunch of tapes? I want to show my friends off all this stuff. And so I was like, yeah, they're in my house in a box or whatever. And at the time, he was living in a big motorhome toy hauler, going to school for MMI, to Motorcycle Mechanics Institution. And it got robbed. And he got a bunch of stuff robbed, and I'm not sure if that tape was in there or whatever, which ones he grabbed. So I gotta try to find all those.
Dude,
and
that'd
hunt
be
those down.
classic.
I just want to see the cars lined up. Have you seen the movie Lionheart? I referenced it. One of his Jean-Claude battles is like that.
I know.
That's great.
That was awesome.
I got to jump in and
live
be the
that.
bad guy. Let's take this break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We got UFC bantamweight Bryan Caraway here with us.
They can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Get in the spirit of the holidays with SiriusXM's full lineup of holiday channels, 15 channels of commercial-free holiday music, including Holiday Traditions on Channel 3, Hale on Channel 4, and new this year, the Stars of Hallmark Channel. They present their favorite holiday favorites on the Hallmark Channel Radio on Channel 70. Get our complete holiday lineup at SiriusXM.com/holidays and bring the holiday cheer into your home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right, we got Bryan Caraway here in studio with us. Bryan is a UFC bantamweight ranked 12 in the USA Today Sports / MMA Junkie rankings. He'll be taking on number 14, Pedro Munoz. This is the tough finale for the current season that we have going on, and we were just talking about more than likely they would be a co-main event if not for the finale fighters that need to be featured. But otherwise, you will see them on the main card, and these guys have been ranked bantamweights for a long time. So cannot wait to see this one. All right, Bryan, you're only a few weeks away. How is your weight? Like, were you in any way hinting that this is going to be, a crawl across the finish line? Or are you on point?
You never know until the week of the fight.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, usually I'm on track, and I'm getting down, but it's always still for me like very. I try not to go too fast if I can. I try not to go too slow. So it's always, just to do it properly because I don't want to get too far. Go too hard and get too far down too quick. You know what I mean? So I've never missed weight before. So I fought Johnny Bedford on 5 days' notice. And I almost died because I was actually peeing blood. My kidneys started. I had some kidney damage after that fight from cutting so much weight. I cut from it's like a solid 158.
I don't know what I would do if I saw blood.
Yeah, I was like 158, 159 when I left on Monday, and I made 36 on Friday. So that was hard. Yeah, I did. I passed out a couple times in the sauna. My whole left side of my body was like cramping. Like completely cramped. It was crazy. I don't really remember a lot of it. It was probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my entire life. Like, it was terrible.
So we would count you out of late notice fights going forward.
Yeah. Well, now I'm gonna start getting trying to stay a little bit closer. But that was like 5 days. I was super late notice. Like, if I would have had 2 weeks, a little bit down. I mean, that's crazy. 5 days. Like, it was the week of the fight. They had me fly. I got called Monday, and I was packing my bags that night and flew out the next morning. That's just that's a little bit too soon. Unless I'm coming off a fight already right away, and it's like, I fight and it's already 2 weeks later. I'm already super lean.
Have you heard the rumors of 125 being abolished and the UFC bantamweight division absorbing all the 25ers?
I just think that they're saying that just because of the huge move with Mighty Mouse and. I don't know. I think, and then now Henry Cejudo is moving up, or trying to fight Dillashaw. Is that on? Actually, I don't even know if that's officially on. I think
it's close to being.
That's
on.
what I think so too. Yeah. So I think people are just, how it is. I think it's rumors right now. I haven't heard anything official at all. I don't know. It would suck because there's so many guys. I think that's one of the most exciting weight divisions in the entire UFC. Those guys are phenomenal athletes. Like, just because they're not born being 6'5" and 300 pounds. In my opinion, they're better athletes than, any of those ones. And more, we have to hit techniques so fast and so many fluid, and be so precise with them. And everything's just faster, crisp, and the power and strength is relative to who we're fighting. You're fighting a big guy. He's relative to you. He's strong as well. But now you're slow and boring, in my opinion. So I know people like to see these massive guys, but I guarantee if they took the 125-pound division and they got a ref who was short and they told the fans that the guys were 200 pounds, just lied to them, said these guys are 200 pounds. No one would know how big the guys are.
On TV, you guys all look bigger. I've seen the reaction of fans.
Well, yeah, if they got a shorter referee and they said this guy's 200 pounds, put on their 200 pounds, people are like, oh man, you'd see how fast they were. They're like, dude, these guys are crazy.
Lower the cage a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, it's crazy. But just, I don't know, maybe just more people think like this guy's massive or whatever, the mentality. I guess when you're a fighter, you're an athlete, wrestling your whole life, definitely size is a huge, it has a huge advantage, but I feel like that's the way, God or Mother Nature, however you want to think of it, work things out. Smaller guys are faster, more agile, you know what I mean? Like, just that's how it is. That's how we make up for it. Bigger guys are, slower and don't have to hit as many sharp techniques. You know what I mean? Because they can't. It's just plain physics. I mean, how many big guys do you see doing? There are some out there that can do it, but how many big guys do you see doing crazy stuff? Watch a breakdance competition. How many guys do you see that are huge? It's just not physically possible. You can't even bend and do that. There's better athletes the smaller you get, as far as in, like dexterity, agility, things like that. Now, you could say bigger guys are better athletes because they have, maybe more power output. Some of these NFL athletes are running like a 4.443, so they're better athletes than that. So it's just a matter of, it's not, I don't even want to say better athletes, just different types of athletes. You know what I mean? Like for MMA, I like to see more, maybe because I'm biased and I'm a smaller guy, but
it is crazy to see Derek Lewis do that switch kick, though. Huh?
That was impressive for him.
He's done it once per fight, like the last fight. And I think maybe it lands half the time.
Yeah.
But still, that's a big dude to be attempting that, and he does it, and then he goes back to just kind of being more of a lumbering heavyweight.
I think it's a distraction.
How about Fabricio Verdum but he's kind of thinner. Yeah. When he runs across the start of every fight, kung fu kick, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's impressive.
Some guys get down.
I will say, though, those are impressive, but also lower percentage. I will say, in Bryan's case, when the finishes do happen, whether submissions, even knockouts when they happen at flyweight, I argue they're more emphatic. And you still see crazy ones, whether it's through takedowns, head kicks, and then even in your own division, I would say, I think bantamweight, it's filled with more knockout artists, and as far as MMA's history is bantamweight than ever before. So going against that stereotype, your division is super exciting. Yeah. It's been super exciting, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we got to take a timeout from Bryan here to do our daily debate. Y'all ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Bryan, hopefully you can participate with us, and we'd love to get your opinion since you're co-hosting this hour with us. Here's the question of the day. Outside of the main and co-main events, which UFC Denver main card fight most intrigues you? So I'm going to give you the answers, and you guys just pick one. Jermaine de Randamie versus Raquel Pennington. Well, we can't say Joseph Benavidez versus Ray Borg because that fight was officially off. Did you know that? Ray Borg is out.
Man, someone was saying that. I think my roommate Gustavo was saying something like that, but I wasn't sure if it was for sure. It's actually
he's out. So we eliminate that one.
Damn it, that was my pick.
Barber versus Seifers, and I'm saying it like that because I know she's Macy Barber. I don't even remember Seifers' name. Or Pena, that's Violin Bob Ross, versus Mike Trizano. We'll start with Dan. We'll go this way. How about you, Dan? Which one are you looking forward to the most? Remember, Benavidez Borg. If you want to say it, fine, but it's officially off.
I'll go with I'll go with Trizano Pena. I kind of unfairly, was looking at some of the fights on the main card, and we're deciding, what's main card material and what's not. And again, if for people that that followed tough, obviously Trizano came out on top, but Pena is a guy who's been gaining steam, and he only fell out due to injury. So you could consider this kind of an unofficial battle, if you will. So I think that one quietly has some importance, and these guys could maybe get that a little bit of an extra rub coming off the show. We'll see.
All right, I'm going to answer it like this. If the fights were starting at the same time, and I was standing outside and they said ballroom 1 or 2, between GDR Pennington and Pena versus Trizano, I would go on Pena versus Trizano because I believe I'd get more bang for my buck. But because those guys I feel like have this long trajectory and they're going to have a lot of fights and they're just starting out, I'd actually go into GDR Pennington. Why? Because of the stakes. Like, both of these need that win. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go give the ladies some love here and go Jermaine de Randamie and Pennington. All right, guys, let me refresh here. It's GDR versus Pennington, Barber versus Seifers, or Pena versus Trizano. Which one do you like?
Man, you both said it perfectly. I think the Pena fight would be better, but I like the fact that there's stakes involved in GDR and Pennington. So I'm going to go Pennington and GDR.
All right, and Bryan Caraway, let me refresh for you. GDR versus Pennington, Barber versus Seifers, or Pena versus Trizano?
Oh, man. I don't know. Obviously, it was easy for me before. It was Benavidez. I trained with them. I've known him for a long time. And that fight, those guys are both some of the most exciting fighters ever.
It was an awesome fight.
Yeah, they're incredible. But that being said, I've coached women for a long time. Obviously, Jermaine de Randamie was like 45-0 as a professional Muay Thai fighter, which is incredible. But Raquel Pennington, obviously, is no slouch. Her MMA striking's, really, really solid. It just depends what Raquel's going to show up. Sometimes she comes to fight, I think, comes forward really hard, and sometimes she tries to, pick and choose her shots a little bit too much, passive. So I like the win, but I think overall for me, what's going to be the most excited, I think the Trizano and Pena fight. They're both, one's 8-0, the other guy's 5-0. So one of the O's got to go, and that's always makes it exciting. Who's going to be that hungry? They both never, tasted defeat as a professional athletes, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulders a little bit. And when you have that, it seems like guys go just a little bit more willing to let themselves die.
Right. Great stuff, guys. All right, here's how the results came out. And again, this was posted before we found out Ray Borg is out in his fight versus Joseph Benavidez, and hope he gets better. He's been through a lot, him and his family. And I really hope that they just keep this fight booking and get him on if it's not a serious injury, let's get him at the end of the year or something. So with Benavidez and Borg out, they actually had 55% of the votes. It was down to the other 3 fights, and they were equal, guys. Same way we were split here. GDR Pennington got 21%. Pena Trizano got 21%. Barber and Seifers, they got 3%. So there you have it. There's today's Daily Debate, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team and Bryan Caraway, UFC bantamweight, who's fighting Pedro Munoz at the TUF 28 finale coming up here on November 30th. We got to take our last break here before the end of the show. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM's Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The road to the Final Four starts this week, and the biggest games are on SiriusXM. Visit SiriusXM.com/college basketball schedule, and do that all season long for game times and channel listings. Our guest here is Bryan Caraway. He is a UFC bantamweight, and he's scheduled to fight Pedro Munoz on November 30th here in Las Vegas. Bryan was sharing with us that this summer he was actually a free agent, but as you can see by the booking, he re-signed with the UFC. What can you share about that, Bryan? We didn't know. It was all, sometimes these free agency things are very public, but this one was actually swept under the rug a little.
Yeah, that's why I'm out of the rankings. A lot of people, I'm not ranked because I lost. I was ranked higher, I think 6 or 7, and I lost to Stamen split decision, and they actually moved me back to number 8, and I was number 8. They voted already several times after. I think I was number 8 for like a good 3 months after I lost to Stamen. Maybe it's March, April, May. 4 or 5 months after, actually, I was still ranked number 8, and I kind of had some misunderstandings, kind of had a dispute with the UFC, and I actually ended up getting released, and I was going to be, looking to go somewhere else, and I ended up just having a meeting with Sean, and then I had a meeting with Dana, and we sat down, and they said, hey, well, what's going on, and there's just a lot of misunderstandings that kind of that got mixed. It's like when back in the day when you tell somebody at a table or in the classroom and it kind of goes around, the story changes. And so I had a face-to-face meeting with Dana, sat down, and he's actually a very logical, reasonable guy if you can get him alone and talk to him. And I just told him, hey, man, this is what was happening in my life. This was going on. And we hashed things out, and I ended up re-signing with the UFC. And obviously
4 fights or something like that?
Yeah, I just re-signed back on my other whatever, I think 3 or 4 fights. But they haven't put me back in the rankings. That would suck if they just, took me out and then like,
You may have to fight, and then they'll do it.
But it was weird. It's so
because we just removed Nate Diaz because he's had 2 years of inactivity.
Yeah.
So he's not in there. But we all know he's one of the top lightweights in the world.
Yeah.
Now, once he fights, if he fights, we'll go back and look and see where he was when he left, what makes sense, and then he'll get interjected in there. We had to do the same with Chad Mendez, so it could be that your fight has to happen first.
Yeah, maybe.
Not that I'm trying to be a cheerleader on their side.
No,
or anything
I
like
get it. But I haven't been out for 2 years now. I was just out of the rank. I was out.
I don't know what their criteria is.
So I mean,
it's good to have you though in UFC because
you're
one of the top bantamweights in the world, and I'm glad this fight booking was made. It's good. It's a good one for both of you guys.
Yeah, I'm a lot more clear focused. Like I said, when I signed my last fight for Stamen, literally like 4 days. It was like 4 or 5 days after I signed the fight. My coach Robert Foss, who is like a father to me. I've known him since I was 18 years old, since my pretty much first year of fighting MMA. I fought for Sport Fight. Known him for a long time, and he was with me through pretty much most of my whole UFC career, at least 6 years of my UFC career. And when I beat Aljamain Sterling, I was coming off a really high, really getting in a groove, and he ends up, just battling depression and family problems, ended up committing suicide 4 days after I took that fight, and it was just I had so many crazy things happening in my life, and I know other people, they've had their fathers die, whatever, family die, and step up and fight and win, whatever. That's awesome for them. Maybe they're more emotionally stronger than I am. I'm not afraid to.
No, man, you don't have to preface it at all. That's a lot to go through. You know what I mean?
And then I had some stuff happening with my dad. Man, it was literally like, I'm not making just to. There's nothing about it, no excuses at all, but just putting it on the platter for everybody knows, kind of going through like. Here I'm in a full camp, fighting, Stamen's, a solid guy, like good competitor, but I feel like I'm just at another level than him. Granted, I lost, but that happened. Coach Falls kills himself. I had a lot of stuff with going on with Misha. I found out, she told me like literally like 5 days later that she'd pregnant. We'd only been broken up a year at the time, and that's, even though we're still cool and we had moved on, it's still kind of hard to swallow. Like, man, I spent 10 years with somebody, and that kind of happens so fast. And then my dad was going through a lot of stuff mental, and he's actually in a mental home right now. He went to Vietnam. He did 2.5 tours in Vietnam and got blown up and all kinds of things, and he was having a lot of PTSD trouble, and he kind of had some like crazy relapse where he lost his mind. He thought he was in the war, like really bad stuff. And then
sorry to hear
during my whole camp, my parents were living with me, and I actually moved him down to help him out, and he was fine when they moved down here. And then my little nephew, who was in a major logging accident, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I moved him down to get better medical here because I have a personal concierge doctor that it's just a lot easier. You come to our house and deal with stuff, and he sponsored me and helping out, and right when all this happened, literally all this shit went down. Like, my dad just started, like, I'd come home and he'd be, like, in his underwear and, like, tell me to get inside the shower and shut the door and, like, take my bat, put my phone under a pillow somewhere, turn off the phone, and, like, be talking to me about, people spying on him, FBI, for almost my whole camp, like, and then he kind of cleared up and got better.
Give me 1 second. Let me jump in real fast. Can you guys stay?
Yeah.
All right, Danny, you good? Danny Okers? Okay. All right, listen. We're up against the clock, but I just want you to finish. This is important. So folks, Sirius XM audience, you'll get more combat sports entertainment. We're going to do a couple minutes of overtime. And, folks, if you ever want to catch the overtime, it's youtube.com/MMAjunkie video. So long, Sirius XM audience. And the rest of you, we'll be back in about 15 seconds.
I wouldn't sleep a minute away. Oh, there's blackjack and poker and the roulette wheel. A fortune won and lost on every deal. All you need is a strong heart and a nerve of steel. Viva!
You guys clear for overtime?
Okay, Bryan. I just didn't want to leave by cutting you off. So
I appreciate it.
But yeah, sorry to hear about your dad, my man.
It was,
is he doing better now?
Well, no, that's the thing is he finally got better. They did some different tests. They took. At that time, I think it had to do with his medication. He takes all kinds of medication. He has, he got Agent Orange from the war, white phosphorus poisoning. He's got shrapnel in his back from grenades. He's won 2 Purple Hearts. He was in some crazy stuff. But they changed his medicine up, and he got better for a while, for, almost a year since that was like January, whenever my camp was, from March. And then he just had a bad, like his brain just finally shut completely down about a month and a half, 2 months ago. It started off a little bit slow at a time, and now he's completely in a different reality. Like, he thinks he's like Vietnam, all this stuff, and it's really hard for my mom. Like, he thinks he divorced my mom, and he tells her that he's dating some supermodel girl now, and it's really hard on my family, because he's just like, no, I don't, and a couple weeks before, a month before, like, my parents were there, been together for like almost 50 years. They're like, we're in love forever, and then now he's like, I don't love your mom with this other girl. I don't even know. She knows we've been divorced for a while. I'm like, just coming up with crazy stuff. He thinks that I have a hole in my heart. He tells me all the time I have to stop fighting, and that he has ESP. He thinks he can do all this stuff. So it's just really sad. So he's actually in a mental hospital right now. So just dealing with that, man. I was dealing with that my whole camp, and just all these thoughts. And it was hard, man. Like, I was supposed to fight Luke Sanders, and I hurt my knee. I tore my LCL, and I was really bummed about that. And then I got this other fight, and just a lot going on, man. It was hard to wake up and even train. Like, every day I wake up, and I don't know how many times. I'm not too prideful to say there's many times where I cry myself asleep that whole camp. He was one of them. My dad and I didn't really have a close relationship growing up, because my dad had so much trauma from the war. Like, my mom took me all my sport events, my motocross events. My mom put me in my wrestling. My mom did everything with me. My dad maybe made it to like 5 wrestling matches my entire career since I was a little kid. And so Coach Foss, I haven't had a coach either my entire MMA career. I've been fighting for 14 years. I had mentors, people that helped out a little bit. Dennis Hallman, but he's kind of a crazy, his own character. He parties, does this stuff. Those guys will go out and party and drink before the week of the fight. Like, not always. They just depends on where you're at. But those were more like my peers, friends, guys that would show me technique. But Coach Foss was the first person I ever had that was like, that I actually respected, that I would listen to what he had to say, that I would, listen to his techniques. He could break things down, psychologically for me. He could really be, very, very well, you guys all know me. He could speak he was very well with his words, And he could relate to me. And, it was crazy. I felt like I kind of missed something, a part of my life I never really knew I had missing. And when he killed himself, man, I never thought, because I had, just to be openly talk about it, like I've talked on The Ultimate Fighter, I dealt with massive anxiety issues for a long time. I threw up my first 30 fights. I had a lot of problems with depression, things like that, and I still suffer with a lot of anxiety and depression, but I've learned to overcome those things, and through lots of just journaling, mental self-talk, and he helped me out on a lot of those. Like that's where my rise was coming up through, the UFC. And when he killed himself and went on, because, man, when Misha and I first split up, there was a lot of crazy emotions, and we had many talks where we sit down and talk, and I knew he had troubles, but the way he would talk to you, you would never think, like, would you ever think Tony Robbins would go? He's the guy that's talking. Would you think he ever find to hear that guy kill
everyone else up?
Yeah.
And that's how he was. And when I found out, it just crushed me so bad. Like, every day I would cry that whole entire camp. I cried in the locker room before the fight, just because he wasn't there. So it was just, and that's not an excuse or anything. Like, Stamen came out, he fought me the best he possibly could probably fight me. I think if he fought me any other way, even a little bit, even on my worst day, I think I still would have beat him. Not saying he's not a tough guy. I just think stylistically. But
you want that fight back?
I do. I want it so bad. It was just such a hard thing. But timing, timing's everything. It happens. I wasn't gonna pull out again. Even though I pulled out Luke Sanders, the UFC was already mad at me for. I pulled out against, I think, Jimmy Rivera, and I want to fight. These people think I want to pull out. I want to fight these guys. I'm not afraid. I've been fighting for forever. I fought like bare knuckle and stuff. The only way to make money is for me to fight. The only way to get, to grow my brand is to fight. This is my job. I don't do anything else. So, like, to not want to fight top guys is ludicrous. You know what I mean? It's just been a rough go.
Yeah.
But I'm glad things are looking good. Clouds are clearing apart. Things are happening. Everybody's always going to have something in their life that's going bad. Whatever. Everybody's going to have. But I think it's minimized now. I have my dad. It's kind of expected. He's older, 70 years old. But everything else in my life, I think, it's starting to come around. Like I said, there's always a little bit of stuff here going on here and that. But overall, I'm feeling, pretty emotionally solid.
That's good, man. Just one of those issues could have driven somebody to really bad things, and let alone having to deal with like 4 or 5 of them all at one time.
It was crazy.
It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I just, I want to say to other people, I just said the thing that got me through is I just put my faith into God, people, whoever is not, I wouldn't even say I'm religious, but people who are maybe not spiritual and believe in that. For me, it's what got me through. Like just going to church, praying, putting my strength in Him, trusting, letting His will be His will, not mine. That's the thing that got me through. So whether the people that say out there, I believe 100% of my heart, faith in God and He's real. If you don't believe in it or whatever, that's fine. But that's the thing that got me through. If I didn't believe in God or something like that, I probably wouldn't even be here today. I'd probably be gone and dead. So whether you could take that out, that's a positive thing no matter what. How you can take that away and that's what got me through, just trusting in Him and all things, can be done through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13. So, things are looking up.
Just to add to that, I think that you just speaking about it honestly and sharing all that, Bryan, was not just good for you, but on a non-selfish aspect, I think good for a lot of people listening. I think more and more athletes, especially, it's important for you guys because you guys are revered as such, badasses, for lack of a better word, and whatnot. So to hear guys like yourself or a Max Holloway or a Robert Whitaker, when whether it's injuries or medical issues, whatever they're dealing with, hey, we get in these weird lulls, life throws funny things at you. I think it's important for the people listening, everyday people, to hear that even people like yourself go through situations that probably a lot of us can relate to. Obviously, I was lucky enough just to get a small glimpse of the relationship that you speak of with Robert Follis, and that was definitely a tough one. But like you said, even with sometimes the greatest people, the greatest teachers, they don't exactly express themselves, right? Kind of like what you were saying. Yeah. So just you expressing yourself, I think, is just huge, man. So I want to commend you and thank you for that.
I just want to be able to be there for other people. I think that's something I really want to try to get into more after fighting, or even maybe segue into that is, helping people, like be like a life coach or help people with depression, anxiety. Like I said, I still suffer with a lot of that. And I just want to share with people who have those problems that to not let it cripple you. You know what I mean? It just gets worse if you concede to it. And a fear is not really real. It's what you make it. You know what I mean? Like, and I just want to share that stuff with people and tell them to keep pushing forward. Like I was not afraid to fight somebody, but I was afraid of my own failure. I was afraid of not performing. I was afraid of all my coaches, my mentors telling me how great I am or this or that or whatever, and not letting them down, letting myself down, because I know what I could do. I know who I train with. I know the guys I train with, that I see them doing great things. And I know how I'd perform against them. And, everybody has these tricks that we play in their mind, especially in the fight game, and even not in the fight game. Everybody, you have these little head in your ear that can cause doubt and say things, but you can't let that own you. You know what I mean? Like, the best way to combat anxiety and depression is just to move forward, just to do it. You know what I mean? Because you once you get past it, every time it takes a little bit off, that you can do it more, you can do more, you can do more. And I tell people, I always challenge them to challenge their comfort zone. Like, always, no matter what. If you feel like you're uncomfortable about doing something, if you feel afraid of doing something, do it. Because I promise you with 100%, like, when you do that, the pride and the confidence you're going to get from that and the strength you're going to get from that is unmatched. You know what I mean? And like I said, it just chips away at it each time you do that. And the best way is just to run right at whatever you're afraid of and go after it, man.
Good stuff,
anyway,
man. All right.
Yeah.
That
Awesome.
was, you really unloaded a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't know so many of those things you were going through, especially like with your pops. So
Yeah.
Takes a lot of courage to open up like that. And, you did. And I wish the best for your family, of course. And I hope you have a safe training camp and you're back in the game now. You know,
pumped.
You have a great fight ahead of you. It's
Absolutely.
here in Vegas, so no travel. I don't know if you like to travel or not. We'll be there, that's for sure.
Dude, it's going to be exciting. I'm telling you, man. I don't care. You know, at the point I want to win, but there's a lot of times where I fight fights and I worry about trying to win too much. You know, I'm trying to execute game plans. I'm trying to do stuff and trying to be too methodical. I feel like in this fight, I'm going to still try to, you know, obviously I'm still going to try to win and be a little bit methodical, but this fight is going to be, I feel this fight is going to be a barn burner. I feel like this is, in my head, it's going to be like submission of the night, knockout of the night, fight of the night, because I know he doesn't back up and I don't like to back up. And I have just, in my heart more than my brain, I told myself, I'm coming in there to fight. Like, I'm not going to try to set things up. I'm just coming to fight this guy. Like, I want to just gut this out, you know, more than anything. Win, lose, or draw, I don't even care.
Not only is it Caraway and Sun Sal, and then, of course, the finale, but we also have Usman and RDA as the main event.
Yeah.
So, great night of fights here in Vegas. All right, Bryan,
Sick.
thanks, man,
Thank you
so
guys
much for
so
stopping by.
Yeah, I
it was a great
appreciate it.
catch-up. We really
Awesome.
always love having you on the show, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Gnarly.
All right, that's his Twitter, is at Bryan Caraway, and I want to thank Bryan Caraway and Chris Leben, our other guests, for their time. We got to get on out of here. Tomorrow, Phil Davis will join us on the show, and we'll also reserve 30 minutes to talk about our top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. That's a little topic that we're borrowing from Busted Open, another quality show here on Fight Nation Channel 93. All right, we're out of here. For Danny back east, Dan to my left, Bryan Caraway, Goes, the Sanchez brothers. I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there, be champions, and go, Man U.